What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we are looking at another category of cards in Keyforge. Except today we're not going to a specific house. We are talking about a specific type of card. Cards that, quite frankly, break the game, but in a balanced kind of way. These are cards in Keyforge that allow you to forge extra keys. I mean, look. The game is literally called Keyforge. The aim of this game, you ready for this? Is to forge keys. I know, right? So having a card that allows you to forge extra keys gives you a frankly ridiculous advantage. And the weird thing is, 4 of the 7 houses have these types of cards. And 3 of them don't. So, commiserations to Brobnar, to Logos, and to Dis. Those houses do not have any cards that allow you to do it. But Mars do. Mars have the card Key Abduction, which says it is an action card, and it even has an Ember bonus, just in case it wasn't good enough anyway. It is an action card, and when you play it, you return each Mars creature to its owner's hand, that being yours and your opponent's. Then you may forge a key at 9 more than the current cost, reduced by 1 Ember for each card in your hand. So clearly, if you can have a lot of cards in your hand, you can forge keys with this very, very cheaply. And of course, you're picking up all of your Mars creatures here as well, which means that you can potentially, if you're picking up 4 or 5 creatures, then that is going to help massively to reduce the cost of Key Abduction. Because if you don't have any cards in hand, then Key Abduction looks like a really fun card. And then you go, well, hang on a second, it cost me at least 15 to forge a key. Now, the reason it says at current cost is that there are cards out there. Jammer Pack would be a good example. It's an upgrade which makes your opponent's keys cost 2 more Ember. So when we say current cost, we mean, well, it's usually 6, but there might be something on the board which will increase the amount. So a standard of 15 minus 1 for each card in your hand. Now, in theory, if you've got more than 9 cards in your hand, then you're actually forging keys more cheaply than you otherwise would, which is cool but somewhat unlikely. Having said that, it's an action that gives you an Ember and then allows you to forge an extra key, potentially cheaply. This in and of itself is really good. And do remember that you're putting all of your Mars creatures back into your hand. So if you've got any Mars creatures with play abilities, then you actually get to reuse them when you play the card back down. Sounds good, but fun fact, there are 0 Mars creatures at the moment that have play abilities. Like, seriously, none of them. But you still get to forge an extra key, so that's pretty good. Moving into Sanctum, we have Epic Quest. Now, this is an artifact that allows you to forge an extra key. When you play it, you have to archive each friendly knight creature in play, which, yeah, kind of annoying, I suppose. Although, of course, actually, this could work out quite nicely, because if you somehow were to draw this and Key Abduction in the same deck, which is, of course, possible, you archive each of your friendly knights, and then when you get to the turn you're going to play Key Abduction, you draw your archive, you can pick it up at the start of your turn, which will then give you more cards in hand, which will then reduce the cost of the key you forged using Key Abduction. It's unlikely to happen, but it would be fun. But it's got an Omni ability. That means it can be used regardless of which house you selected as your active for this particular turn. And what it says is, if you have played 7 or more Sanctum cards this turn, sacrifice Epic Quest and forge a key at no cost. That's right. You don't have to pay for a key. That's redonk. And remember, when you play this, you archive each friendly knight creature, which means you cannot have them this turn, because when you play it, it's too late to draw your archive. But you can't use the ability because it goes into play exhausted anyway. It's an artifact. Next turn, when you can use it, you can potentially pick it up and then play Sanctum and play all of your night creatures down again, plus a couple other, and forge a key. Now, the fact that you ordinarily start the turn with a hand of 6 does mean that you're unlikely to play 7 Sanctum creatures, or cards in one turn. Creatures even less likely. To be fair, it is played, not used, so you have to play them from your hand. So you're going to basically have to make use of Archive here to really get the most out of this, or play something like this that puts a bunch of stuff into your archive or into your hand. But it is absolutely possible to pull this off. Now, just to confirm, this is an Omni ability which can be used regardless of your active house, but remember that you only get to forge a key if you play 7 Sanctum cards this turn. What are the odds that you're using a house other than Sanctum while still playing 7 Sanctum cards? I would suggest rather low. So okay, this is a very difficult one to pull off, but you get to forge a key for 0 cost. So you know what? Yeah, okay, it's harder to use than Key Abduction, but you're forging a key at 0 cost. Now, when we move into Shadows, we actually have Key of Darkness. I know, right? I love that it's got key in the name. That makes me kind of happy. It just feels like it should. It feels right, ladies and gentlemen. Just feels right. It is an action card, and it's very straightforward. Forge a key at +6 of current cost. That is ordinarily 12. If your opponent has no Amber, forge a key at +2 current cost instead. So hopefully you've either been able to steal all of their Amber, and let's face it, Shadows are pretty good at stealing Ember. For instance, Nerve Blast, Ghostly Hand. I mean, look, there's a million different ways to steal Ember with Shadow, alright? It's kind of what they do. We'll do a video about that later. Point is, if you can get them down to 0 Ember and then play Key of Darkness, then you're forging a key for 8. Well, that's just like forging a key with Jammer Pack down. It's really not that difficult. And again, you're seeing here that they've all got similarities and they've all got pros and cons. So whereas Key Abduction is +9 of the original cost, actually, this is +6, but Key Abduction, you can bring it down. This, you can only bring it down in one very specific way, which is much harder for you to control. It's kind of good. And then we get to Untamed that actually have 2 different options, which of course means it's most likely to essentially get both of these turning up in one deck. Because in order to get 2 of the others, you've got to have the right houses. Whereas this one, you can have both of them in an Untamed deck. Still haven't pulled Untamed. Still think Untamed would be my favourite house if I ever got a deck with 1 in. It's alright, I'm going to buy more decks. Key charge, lose 1 Ember. If you do, you may forge a key at current cost. Well, that's like just paying 7 Ember for a key. Okay, you got to lose 1, but, I mean, Key of Darkness was +2 or +6. Key Abduction is +9. This is lose 1 and then forge it at current cost. Well, alright, fine. That seems alright to me. That seems much nicer than most of the others. Now, look, obviously I'm fully aware that Epic Quest forges for 0. Difficult to use, but forges for 0. This is just forge a key if you got 7 Ember. That's nuts, ladies and gentlemen. That is absolutely nuts. You don't have to control your opponent's board. You don't have to collect a million Ember. It's really quite good. But as I've said, Untamed doesn't end there, because we've got CHOTA Hazri. It's an actual creature. As it stands, the only creature that lets you forge a key. And what it does, it's a free power, if that's interesting to you. It's alright. It's not great. When you play it, you lose an Ember. If you do, you may forge a key at current cost. It's exactly the same as what we just saw with Key Charge, except it's a creature with a play ability rather than an action. But other than that, it's basically exactly the same. And I've seen decks that have both of these in. It's really good. So Untamed is kind of the king of forging extra keys at the moment. And the reality is that if you can forge an extra key during your turn, that's crazy. There is a rule in Keyforge whereby if you end your turn with enough Ember to forge a key the following turn, you have to announce check so that your opponent can essentially try and stop you. So your opponent checks, but you have an opportunity to play bait and switch, which basically lets you steal half their Ember, which is kind of hilarious. Also, you keep going until your opponent doesn't have more Ember than you. So actually, if your opponent's got, say, 9 Ember, you get 5 and they keep 4. If it's even, you just get the same amount, which is kind of hilarious. Or One Last Job, where you purge each friendly Shadows creature and steal 1 Ember for each creature purged in this way. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it gives you an option. But if you can play one of these cards, then your opponent can't stop you. You have enough Ember, and then you're like, Key Abduction. You can't stop me, it's still my turn. This breaks the game. In a very literal sense. The whole point of the game is collect Ember, forge a key at the start of your turn. This breaks the rules by letting you forge a key during your turn. I'm hearing rumours that you can only ever have one of each of these cards in your deck. That's going to be something we talk about fairly soon on this channel, put it that way. But ladies and gentlemen, right now, I want to know what you think about these cards. Which is your favourite? Which is the easiest to use? Which is the hardest to use? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy for some more rambling. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.